Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
You are welcome to Fusion Mobile e-learning platform. I'm Olokobi Pelumi by name, the commerce tutor or the commerce teacher. So we'll be looking at the topic capital. So we'll be looking at the meaning of capital, the types of capital. Therefore, we're going to look at the importance of working capital, and we're going to look at how to calculate, then some calculation of working capital. So the first thing we have, the meaning of capital. So capital has been defined generally differently by different schools. It has been divided differently by different schools of thought. That is accounting, that is by an accountant. Accountant is having his own view on capital, while also an economist is also having his own views on capital. Same thing happens to what? To the layman. The layman also is also having what? Its own views on capital. That is the layman, someone that does not belong to what? To the business world. It's also having what? Its own view on capital. Now let's start with the views of the accountant. So accountant view capital as the amount someone use or a person use in starting the business. So it means capital is the net worth of the business. So it is the amount a person use in the start of a business. That is the what accountant views of capital. So it means the total amount of money a proprietor invested in starting a business. So that is what capital is refers to to an accountant. So that is the meaning of capital in the accounting views. Now the next thing we have is the economist view. So to an economist, what happened? An economist define capital as the total amount of resources used in furthering production, that is in the creation of wealth. So if wealth is to be created, or if other goods is to be created, what happens? The resources used in the creation of other goods and services, that is an economist refers to capital. So we're talking about capital in an economist view. Capital involves those categories of machineries, you understand, equipment, money, cash, using the production of goods and services. That was an economist views as capital. So generally, capital means what? It means man-made wealth used in in the production of goods and services, since capital are made by man. So that is the views of the economist on capital. Now the next one we have is the layman view. According to the layman, capital is the amount used in the running of a business. So it's total amount a person used in running a business. That is the layman view. Now the next thing we have on the list is the type of capital. We are going to look at different type of capital, and the list is on the board. So we have the authorized capital, we have the issued capital, we have the called up capital, we have the paid up capital, we have the uncalled up capital, capital employed, we also have the capital owned, fixed capital, non-capital, duplicate capital, and we have working capital or circulating capital. Wow, the first thing we have now is the authorized capital, or you can also call it the nominal capital or registered capital. As the name stated, registered capital or nominal capital. So this is total amount or maximum amount stated by the memorandum of association which a company can issue out for subscription, that is, which the company can issue out to shareholders to subscribe. So it is the initial capital which serves as to the public limited liability company given by the memorandum of association. So this capital is usually stated in the document. So and that represents the total amount of capital that a company is allowed to raise. It shows the total amount of maximum amount of capital the limited liability company is allowed to raise from the public. So another name for authorized capital is the nominal capital, because it is going to be nominated in the memorandum of association, or another name for it is the registered capital. That is the capital that has been registered in the memorandum of association or authorized by the memorandum of association. Now the next thing is the issued capital. The issued capital. This is the part of the authorized or the nominal capital which a company has issued out to the public for subscription. So the portion of the nominal capital that has been issued out for subscription to the public is referred to as the what? The issued capital. So it is part of the authorized capital actually. So which the company has issued out for subscription to the what? To the public. Now the next thing we have is the code of capital. The code of capital. Now when talking about the code of capital, is also the portion of the issued capital. So once after the share has been issued out to the public for subscription, what happened? The portion of the issued capital the shareholders are actually called up. That is, they have actually want to buy. The shareholder actually want to buy. So if the shareholder is interested in buying such an issued capital, what will happen? The shareholders will actually call for the share. That is, the member of the public rather will call for the share. And if once they call for the share, what will happen? The company will ask them to pay for such shares. So it shows the portion of the issued capital which the public has actually called for subscription, and the company has actually asked them to pay for such code of capital. So that is the meaning of code of capital. The next one we have on the list is the paid up capital. The paid up capital. Wow, interesting. This also serves as the portion of the code of capital which the shareholders has actually paid for. So once the shareholder has called up for such a capital, what will happen? It is the responsibility of the shareholder or of the public to pay for such a shares to become a shareholders. So the portion of the code of capital that are actually been paid for is called the paid up capital. Now the next thing on the list is the uncalled capital. This also serves as the portion of the issued capital which has not yet been called up. That if it has not been called up by the member of the public, the portion of the of the issued capital that is not yet to be called for is called the uncalled up capital. Now the next thing we have on the list is the capital employed. The capital employed. This actually represents the total asset of the business minus the current liability. It represents the total asset of the business minus the current liability. This shows the initial total amount of money invested in the business. It shows the total amount of money invested. So to arrive at the capital employed, we are going to find the total asset minus the current liability. So that is our capital employed. Now the next thing we have the capital owned. Interesting. The capital owned. The capital owned. This shows the owner's equities. Wow, interesting. Capital owned, as the name denotes, it shows the owner equity. So it shows the owner interest in the business. It shows total amount of asset owned by the owners. So it means when talking about the capital employed, it is the portion of the business owned by the owner. So the portion of the business owned internally is called It's called the capital owned. It's called the capital owned. So that's what I mean by capital owned. So how to arrive at the capital owned? So arrive at the capital owned. The capital owned is the total asset minus the total liabilities that actually give us the capital owned. That will give us the capital owned. Okay, now next thing is the fixed capital. The fixed capital. So this represents the asset of the business which I use in the generation of revenue. So this asset I use continuously by the business in generation of revenue, and that this business I use more than one account. This form of asset, rather, this capital, I use more than one accounting period. So they include machinery, they include equipment, they include land and building. So they are used in the generation of revenue, and they are what? It lasts more than what? One accounting period. So these are the fixed capital. So we call them the fixed capital. So they are permanent in nature. That's why they are called the fixed capital. Actually, permanent in nature. So as in they are fixed in nature and also permanent in nature. Now the next thing we have is the known capital. The known capital. So this represents the money borrowed by the organization from an external source. So any money borrowed by the organization or by the business from an external source is called the known capital. This represents the debentures and other fixed loan. Another fixed loans represent the debentures of the debentures received from external source or from the public, and other fixed loan are called the known capital. The known capital. The money borrowed from an external source are referred to as the known capital. Now we have the liquid capital. Wow, interesting. The liquid capital. This is the opposite of of the fixed capital. This capital change from one form to another. The changes from one form to another. That means they are not fixed in nature. They are not fixed in nature. So they can be changed from one form to another within an accounting period, within 1 year. So they changes from one form to another. So they include money that is cash. They include debtors. They include cash, as said earlier. They include debtors. Also, they include money at bank, and so on and so forth, like that. So the next thing is the working capital or circulating capital. So this is the money, or this is the capital used in running to day-to-day activities of the organization. They are used in running the day-to-day activities of the organization. So they are referred to as the working or circulating capital. So and formula used in calculating the circulating capital or the working capital is the current assets minus current liability. Is the current assets minus the current and that represents the funds in which the proprietors use in day-to-day running of the organization. So that what refers to as the working capital or circulating capital. So and how can we calculate the working capital? Is the current asset minus minus the current liabilities. Now the next thing we have on the list is the importance of working capital. Wow, out of all the type of capital we've talked about, working capital is very, very important. It's very, very, very important. So let's look at some of the importance of the working capital or circulating capital. Now, working capital helps to show whether too much money is being tied down in the current assets. So it helps to indicate whether too much money is tied down in the current assets. So it's not a good idea to tie down too much money in the current assets. So that helps to show through the use of the working capital. And again, the working capital also indicates the solvency of the business, whether the business is solvent or not. That is, when talking about the solvency, it means whether the company will be able to meet its short-term debt, to meet its debt without selling the fixed assets of the business. So that shows whether the business will be able to meet its debt without the fixed assets being sold. Now, number 3 of the importance of the working capital is that the working capital help the business in decision making. It helps the business in decision making and also and planning. That's one of the importance of the working capital. Also, the working capital also shows the healthiness of the business. So it gives the investor whether to invest in the business or not. So the use of the working capital helps the investor whether the business whether to invest in the business or not, and also indicate that the business is internally financed. So the positive value of the working capital indicates that the business is internally financed, that is not being financed by the supplier or from any external source. So that is the importance of the working capital. So if we look at the meaning of a capital, so we talk about the types of capital and the importance of working capital. Now the next thing on the line or on the list is to move to the calculation of working capital. So we are going to look at the calculation of working capital. We are going to take an illustration and try to find the solution to it. Okay, now we have an example. Wazobia Enterprises financial position as at 31st 2013 is as follows. So we have pictures, which is 1,000 naira. We have stock at 31st December, which is 8,000 naira. We have debtors 5,000. We have creditors 3,000. We have cash at hand 7,000. We have bank overdraft. We have typewriter. We have furniture. We have capital. So we have 1 year cooperative loan, and also we have profit for the year. And we are asked to calculate the correct capital owned, the working capital, the current liabilities, the fixed assets, the fixed capital rather, and the capital employed. So that's what we'll be doing now. Okay. A, we have capital owned. I think that the capital owned is total assets or total capital minus the total liabilities. So total assets minus the total liabilities. So what will happen? We calculate the capital owned since we don't have the total assets yet and the total liability yet. What we are going to do, we can get capital owned by adding the profit to the capital. Adding the profit to the capital. So capital owned, it will be capital is 18,000 plus the profit made within the period. So that will be the owner's equities in the business. That will be the owner's equities in the business, which is the capital owned. So you have 19,700 as the capital owned. So you have 19,700 as the capital owned. So B, we have to calculate the working capital. Generally, working capital is just going to give us capital plus profit. Give us the what? So the working capital generally is the current assets minus the current liabilities. And generally the current asset is calculate the current asset. The current asset is equals to the stock at first, the debtors, and then the cash at hand. Okay, current liability is equals to creditors, bank overdraft. Okay, now current assets, that becomes 5,000 to 8,000 plus 5,000, then plus 7,000. So I think that is all. That is all. So we can add that 8,000. Then we have 20,000 as the current assets. Now current liabilities. Current liabilities is the creditors and bank overdraft. So the creditors and bank overdraft is the current liabilities. So you have creditors 3,000 plus bank overdraft to be 1,200. Now they gave us 4,200. So we're going to have working capital as 20,000, that is current assets minus current liabilities. and then give us 15,800. That give us 15,800. So see we have we have to calculate the current liabilities. I think we've done that already. Current liabilities, that includes the creditor plus the bank overdraft, which is 4,200. 4,200. So we can say current liabilities is creditors, bank overdraft, So we have creditors to be 3,000, and we have bank overdraft to be 1,200. Then we have 4,200. We have 4,200. Now the next thing is to calculate the fixed assets. The fixed assets include the fixtures, that includes the typewriter, and also that includes the furniture. So the fixed assets, that includes the fixtures, which is 8,000 naira, plus the typewriter, that is 4,500. Then plus the furniture, and that is 2,500. I think that is all. So we are done with that. So we're going to add that. That gives us 8,000 naira. So the fixed asset is 8,000 naira. Now the next thing is to calculate the capital employed. So capital employed is equals to total assets minus current liabilities. So let's calculate our total assets. Total assets includes the fixed assets plus the current assets. So the fixed asset here is 8,000 naira. The fixed asset plus the current asset here, which is 20,000 naira. And that can give us 28,000 naira as our total assets. So current liabilities is equals to 4,200. So that means capital employed will be equals to 28,000 minus 4,200. So we have 23,800. So we are done with this example, and we are able to calculate the capital owned, which shows the capital plus profit. Also, we are able to calculate the working capital, which is the current asset minus the current liabilities. Thereafter, we are able to calculate the current liability itself, which in the questions we have creditors plus what bank overdraft, and we are able to calculate the fixed assets, which includes the fixtures, which includes the typewriter and the furniture, what the business uses continuously to generation of profit, and then what they are permanent in nature. So that is what they include those resources used in generation of what revenue. So we calculated the fixed asset also, and thereafter we are able to, this is actually D and this is E. So we are able to calculate the capital employed, which includes total assets minus the current liabilities. So we are able to calculate the total assets as the current assets plus the fixed assets. That gives us 28,000, and our current liabilities is 4,200, and we are able to find the differences to give us 23,800 as our capital employed. So we have an illustration 2, which is a company had an authorized capital of 30,000 naira. It offered applicants 20,000 naira share capital, out of which the company collected 15,000 naira. So we are asked to calculate A, the nominal capital, B, issued capital, C, paid up capital, and D, unissued capital. Now, can do that now. Solution, which is A, the nominal capital. Generally, we were told that the authorized capital is the nominal capital. So a company had an authorized share capital of 30,000 naira. So the authorized share capital is actually the nominal capital or the registered capital. So the nominal capital is actually 30,000 naira. So B, we have to calculate the issued capital. So the issued capital is part of the nominal capital offered to applicant. It offers applicant 20,000 naira share capital. So it's the share offered to applicants is the issued capital. So it is the portion of the of the nominal capital or authorized capital that has been issued out or offered to applicant or member of the public for subscription. So the shares offered to applicant is the issued capital. So the issued capital now is 20,000 naira. So C, we have to calculate the paid up capital. So out of which the company collected 15,000 naira. So the issued capital is actually 20,000 naira. So immediately the shares are being offered to the applicant will be asked to pay for such shares offered to them. But what happened? The amount the company was able to collect from the applicant, is 15,000 naira. So the paid up capital is the total amount collected from the applicant, which is 15,000 naira. That is the paid up capital. So D, we are to calculate the unissued capital. It's also the portion of the nominal capital or authorized capital that has not been offered to applicant or issued as to applicant for subscription. So the portion out of 30,000 naira, 20 has been offered. So the unoffered shares is represent the unissued shares or share that has not been issued to shareholder. So the unissued share is also portion of of the authorized or nominal capital. So the unissued one, if 20,000 have been offered, so the unoffered share or unissued share capital will be 10,000 naira. So what happened? The issued capital and the unissued capital should amount to the nominal capital or authorized share capital. So I think we are done with the solution. Okay, it has been an interesting class with you people. So whereby we talk about the meaning of capital, we look at the different types of capital. Also, we talk about the importance of working capital, which helps to indicate whether the business is insolvent or not. That is, whether the business will be able to pay the debt without the fixed asset being sold. So we have a lot of the importance. And also we also look at some calculation of working capital, looking at different calculation of capitals, also how to calculate capitals with some numerical figures. So if you have any confusion as regards to this topic, do not hesitate to replay the video. And again, some questions will be displayed on your screen. Do well to attend such questions. Thank you very much.